Let's talk first about the European Recovery Fund. Have you seen the money yet, or do you know when the money is going to hit your accounts?
Yeah, negotiations are, well, good morning, Matt. Thank you very much for having me. Negotiations are still ongoing in Brussels, so obviously we're doing our utmost to accelerate this process so that we can start the implementation of the recovery plan on 1st of January 2021.
Well, Vice President, buenos dias. I wanted to ask you about the situation that is happening in Madrid in particular, because we have seen that regional lockdown go into effect. Some will tell you it's been a real debacle, what we've seen in Madrid, the lack of coordination between the national and central government. But I want to ask you about the economic impact on the recovery. And the reason why I'm asking you is because the IMF and the numbers that they put out yesterday for Spain, they don't actually see a V-shaped economy taking hold or a recovery that looks like a V. What do you see?
Well, I mean, political tensions, I think, are going on in many parts of the world. We've seen them in many European countries. We've seen them in the US. I think we have to be ready for this kind of situation because citizens have been undergoing a very tough situation for many months, and that, of course, is bringing up this kind of tensions. But beyond the political atmosphere, what we see is that health and economy go hand in hand. Those areas of Spain which have been able to tackle in an effective and prompt manner the outbreaks have had a very minimal economic impact, and that's why we want to really address the health situation as efficiently as possible in order to minimize the potential slowdown of the recovery, a recovery that is underway in Spain. All numbers show that the third quarter may have reached 13% GDP growth, quarter-on-quarter growth. And we want to continue on that trend because the outlook for 2021 is actually quite positive. Our forecast is GDP growth of 7.2%, which is the same forecast that the IMF has published only yesterday. And that could even be increased with the implementation of the recovery plan I was referring to a moment ago.
Is the country's Is the sustainability of Spain's public finances, though, dependent on ECB support? Not that that will be pulled anytime soon, but is that a necessity in terms of your financial plan?
Well, ECB support has played a very important role, I think, throughout the whole of Europe since the spring. This has provided a framework of stability which has facilitated all governments in Europe taking the appropriate measures to minimize the potential economic and social damage of the pandemic. We have implemented very similar measures which have been effective to minimize the cost in terms of job losses, in terms of drop of GDP or pain or loss of economic tissue. And I think that everything points towards a continuation of this accommodative monetary policy, which will be key going forward. But what we also see is that market confidence in Spain is strong. Actually, our risk premia and our yields are going down on a stable manner. We're able to also extend the maturities. We have been able to announce only last week that we are going to reduce our planned issuance from now until the end of the year by 15 billion. And therefore, I think that it is not only the ECB, it's also market sentiment that is helping us to face this coronavirus pandemic in the most effective manner possible.